The issue is about transparency. So if you're going to blend in synthetic data with your real human data, be transparent and tell the client exactly what you're doing. The biggest myth that I would like people to drop is that you can avoid doing market research and rely on AI for everything.
What is that pain area according to you, the biggest one?
Speed. As we all talk about today, everybody wants to take decisions faster. Gone are the days where we could take up to 2 months. Today they want it in weeks, sometimes in days. Can we use the concept of virtually creating an audience using the power of AI to simulate human responses? Synthetic data, as a term goes, right, has been around for some time. So privacy becomes a problem in market research when you are not able to talk to certain kind of people.
True.
Right? And synthetic data for insights or synthetic data for market research is a way to address that. So we are completely kind of circumventing that problem by simulating that audience.
What data sources feed it into the process, and what kind of models or controls ensure that the output remains realistic and representative? Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Simulated Reality. So as we all know, surveys are painstakingly slow, consumers are busy, they don't tend to answer a lot of the questions. So C5i decided to flip the script. And how? And of course, the man who is at the center of it all decided to make sure that he won't ask people what they think, he will simulate how people behave. And today I have with me the Executive Vice President of C5i, Ajit Shankar, who is going to walk us through this really niche but extremely relevant understanding of how in the new world do surveys work. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you with us. So Ajit, right off the bat, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that how is it that in your view, what are the biggest limitations that one tends to face in the conventional form of, let's say, surveys, and especially when one wants to reach out to maybe a global audience, niche audience, areas where companies require data which is going to help them in real time. What is that pain area according to you, the biggest one?
Yeah, there are like perhaps some 3 or 4 pain areas. And interestingly, these pain areas have been around for a long time. It is not that they have kind of emerged in this AI era and it is specific to an AI kind of a situation, right? So market research has been faced with these challenges. And if I can list them out one by one, the number one challenge continues to be on quality of data.
Yes.
Quality of data, which is that you're going to ask somebody, and how are you ensuring that that's the right response? Are you going to the right person, etc. So quality is number one. Has always been. Number two is speed. As we all talk about today, everybody wants to take decisions faster. Businesses want results like yesterday. Gone are the days where we could take up to 2 months to kind of get back to a client with a deep insight report. Today they want it in weeks, sometimes in days.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, in days. That's the reality, right? And traditional methods, you just can't do that, right? So that is the other one. And of course, there is cost. You know, there are more and more questions coming about ROI of all the money that you're going to spend on market research and insights.
Because the conventional methods
are
employ a lot of people.
Yeah, it needs people to collect data, analyze data, etc. And just that data collection costs are high, right? So that's the number third one. These 3 are the primary ones. There are a couple of,
pretty much
they are big. They are
nailed the
big.
head, yeah.
And there are a couple of smaller ones, which is that some audiences are difficult to reach. Like in pharma sector, if you have certain diseases and you can't reach them, certain senior executives are not easy to reach, certain developers may not be easy to reach. So even reach is a problem. And the last one, which is getting more and more important today, is privacy. You know, more and more there are restrictions saying that you cannot talk to this, you cannot talk to that. You know, there are a lot of restrictions, GDPR and all of that. So all these 5 are challenges. The first 3 are the primary ones.
So tell me this, Ajit, what based on these 5 challenges, I mean, it would be wonderful for you to maybe share with us and the audience that little spark that started off that entire understanding for C5i in terms of the journey of the company. Because, yeah, these are very important aspects. It's a very important area which can be hit, very relevant for a very large base of companies, etc. So it's very niche, as I had mentioned. Was that the encouraging aspect that got this entire thing going?
Yeah, for us, it's an interesting kind of a convergence in many ways, right? Because as a company, we have been in the insight space for years, and we have been in the analytics space for years, and we are investing significantly into leveraging AI and analytics for helping clients take decisions. So we have both sides of the equation. So it is natural for us to see how we can apply the AI and the latest technologies into market research to make that better and address these challenges. So we are in that right kind of a mix of skill sets and capabilities in that sweet spot because we have both the skill sets.
True.
So we are not like an AI company who doesn't understand the other side of the story. So for us, that was the primary reason. And of course, there was actual need from our clients. Every time when we talk to clients, they do come up these challenges that, you know what, I want it faster, I'm concerned about the quality of the data, I want it at lower price points. So these things also come in. So all these three things kind of came together.
To make sure that this aspect. But tell me this, when you started to actually use the aspect of AI, because now, as you mentioned, that you've had the experience of doing it the conventional way, you've had those long painstaking journeys that you've gone through. The moment that AI aspect started to come through, did you have a huge smile on your face? I mean, the first time that you were doing it?
You know, it was exciting, and it was something that we knew that we have to move fast, and we want to take advantage of this opportunity, because it was not a question of whether we should or not. It is, we must do it. How quickly can we do it, and how can we make real impact for our clients? So our focus was on how to make impact for clients by leveraging all this.
You remember one story that you can probably share with me, that the first time that you actually put this together, and the client, I'm pretty sure, must have had a lot of expectations of you. What was the reaction like, Ajit? What
the initial reactions have, interesting, the reactions have not changed dramatically in the last 1 year. Right.
Which speaks volumes about your efficiency levels.
Not only that, it is that it's still a new area. Oftentimes, when you think about new technologies, applications, there is that, okay, now everybody understands this. Now this is, understood, and we will kind of adopt it, etc. We're still in that stage. If you think about the classic cliche of hype curves, right? It's still in the very, very early stage.
So there is no template as such.
There's no fixed template. Nobody's figured it out. Going back to your question, what were the initial reactions? Was huge amount of interest, balanced with an equal amount of skepticism. So it's one of those areas we love to do it, we want to do it, this is great, it's going to help us, but can we trust it? And that has been the biggest kind of interesting aspect in this journey, always. Huge interest, but loaded with skepticism.
Which is a very logical point.
Yeah. How do you trust it?
I agree, because of the first time, that is the general human mindset, right? The moment you have something new coming your way, you want to be very skeptical about it.
Especially here, because this is not so much of a new model that is being developed, versus another model that is getting developed. Here it is, to use a cliche, paradigm shift, right? Which is that you have been getting insight for the last 100 years by talking to people. You have an opinion, you have a satisfaction opinion or a brand opinion, you ask and you get. Now we are going to a place where you're not even talking to people. You're going to simulate that using certain technology, which means it's a big leap of faith, right? How do you trust it?
For sure. Which actually brings me to that point, the aspect that C5i offers synthetic audiences. So before we move further, I would like for you to please at least educate all of us in terms of what does that mean, in terms of the fact that you are tracking, or maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, simulating the behavior of a large audience. Is that what
simulation is the right word, right? So kind of narrowing down from broader AI in market research to the topic of synthetic data, virtual audiences. Now, synthetic data as a term goes, right, has been around for some time. It is not unique to market research. So if you look at the AI space itself, there is a lot of discussion, there's a lot of work going on around creating data to train models. Now that is a big, separate, larger ocean out there. We are talking about a niche area where, going back to our discussion, can we use the concept of virtually creating an audience using the power of AI to simulate human responses? So that's what we have been trying to do.
Kind of behavior that you would want to probably deliver to a company in terms of their survey.
Yeah. So rather than talking to a customer one-on-one and asking them about an opinion, can we simulate that customer persona using the power of AI so that rather than asking an individual, you are getting responses from that simulated persona. That is the core of what this initiative is all about.
Fascinating. I would like for you to maybe just shed a little more light on that. So, for example,
Right.
if I were to say, I want to understand what is the behavior of people in the hinterland of, let's say, Bihar, regarding the innovation in sportswear. How are you going to do that?
Right. So innovation in sportswear is a great topic. Hinterland of India might be a bit of a challenge right now because the entire concept of synthetic data for insights is built on the fact that large language models are trained on millions and trillions of consumer conversations.
Sure.
So where you have those conversations, there is all kind of not just consumer conversations, there is industry research, there is thought leadership, there is academic research. So LLMs are trained on all of that.
Fair.
Huge amount of data, much more than we can even begin to imagine, right? So using that corpus of information that LLMs are trained on, it is possible for us to create simulations of human behavior, right? So perhaps not yet for the kind of consumers that are not well covered by internet and discussions, etc.
So
right?
that is the limitation.
There is a limitation.
That it is still a little more urbane in terms of your surveys?
In some ways, it has to be an online population and all of that, right?
Okay.
Yes, the smartphone penetration has gone anywhere, but hinterland, villages, etc., you may not have a consumer reviewing sportswear and posting comments on that.
Okay.
You won't have an Economic Times report on the behavior of consumers there on that particular category.
Okay.
But let's take your question to the same, a client wants that question. I want to understand consumer behavior towards sportswear, right? And I want to interview 20,000 people in India. And I want the results like in 10 days. I don't have 3 months, right? Okay. I don't have 3 months to do this. Right. There is a use case for, the kind of synthetic data solution we are talking about.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so what we can typically do is that, of course, there is some work that is needed to do that. But essentially, once we create solutions for that, right? Rather than talking to 20,000 people, you can simulate 20,000 responses cutting across the country, city-wise, audience profile-wise, using synthetic data, right? So rather than doing that human interviews with 20,000, we can either simulate all the 20,000 or else...
We might not even get 20,000, to be honest.
It is difficult, it is possible, it's going to take a lot of time and money, right? True. The other option is that sometimes clients want to see some kind of comparison. So what our solution then is that, okay, you go and do 2,000 or you go and do 5,000. The balance we will simulate with synthetic data.
Okay,
right?
fair. Makes
so then
sense.
You
a hybrid kind of
hybrid kind of a model, right? So that's also possible.
Fair.
But then you can essentially get to that faster, right? So there is, of course, a way to create it. There is modeling behind it. But that is a typical use case that we are talking about.
Fair enough. I think that does give us quite a lot of clarity, Ajit, and fascinatingly interesting work.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay? Before I move on, I have to ask you, for you, which was that one particular survey that was probably the most challenging one, or a use case that you could probably share with us that was like the most happy moment in terms of this new innovation that you were able to achieve?
So generally, to one part of your question is what is more challenging, right? Challenges are usually when you have to go to difficult to reach audiences.
Sure.
Right?
Because data nahi hai.
Data is going to be less.
Correct.
Right? So the model building becomes more complex in many ways, right? So for example, if you want to do B2B audiences, you want to talk to, let us say, a developer or AI developer kind of a profile, kind of a, or it could be a decision maker in a large bank, or it could be somebody who manages supply chain in an automobile company, right? All of these are niche audiences. If you want to talk to them, the limitations of data will come in terms of even what the LLMs have. Right? So there we have to so that's a challenge. That's a challenge that we have faced, right? So how we circumvent that, going back to your question, is that there we do not rely purely on the LLMs.
Okay,
right? The models, right?
So it's a lot more conventional there.
We actually, but in those cases, even conventional faces challenges.
This is true.
Like for example, how many supply chain managers of the top 100 automobile
I see your
companies are
point,
ready to
yeah.
talk to us, right?
Correct, correct,
Or talk
correct.
to anybody for that matter.
Correct.
So what we do there is that we take clients' past data. It's not that the clients do not have data. They would have done some work around that audience profile in the past, right? So we take that data, use that to build the model, heavily use that data to initially to tune the model,
Fair.
still use the power of LLMs, right? So there is a lot of that RAG technologies that come into play there to kind of use the existing data. So that has been a challenge, right? Difficult audiences has been a challenge for us.
Tell me this. This was the challenge aspect for sure,
Right.
Ajit, but I'm pretty sure there is an upside as well.
Absolutely.
So what would be that upside? Do you feel it is the repeatability factor, it is the
It is-
consistency factor in terms of, because it is synthetic data,
Yeah.
which is being simulated. So do you feel that those are the aspects which
There are multiple benefits you get once you do this, once
Please
you are ready
share.
to take the leap
I'd
of
love
faith.
to
So
understand.
again, if I take an example of a client of ours, right?
Sure.
Let us, without naming the client, let us say that they are,
Let the audience guess.
yes, let them guess.
You guys get a C5i t-shirt if you guess it right.
Right. So this client, of course, operates in a space which they have certain solutions. They have a large database of customers or people in their system, and they want to sell to that audience certain solutions. Right.
Sure.
One of that is a learning management solution. Right. The other one is sales supports kind of a solution. Right. For the sales teams. Right.
Sure.
So look at the audiences they want to go after. Right. For the learning management solution, they have to talk to a learning and development manager inside an organization.
Agreed.
Now, how many learning and development managers are there in a large company? Right. 1, 2, 3. Right. That's it.
True.
And they're not easy to get.
One is that, and also you never know, Ajit, what kind of a policy the company has.
Yes,
Maybe
they may
are
not even
not
talk to you.
allowed to talk.
Exactly. That's always there.
Yeah.
Right. So what we had, and the client in this particular case had done some work around that audience, right? So then we were able to take that work that they had done in the past and then use our models, right, to kind of simulate that audience. So today, if that client wants to understand that I'm going to offer a new feature in my solution for that target audience, right? These are the features that I'm going to add, and this is the price point that I'm going to charge them for adding these features. Will they accept it or not, right? Now, we can actually do that without talking to people. They can go to our solution, ask that and get that insight, right? Now, you test 10, 15 concepts like that and you get an insight that, okay, this one or two are really going to be great.
Sure.
They can still maybe go and talk to some of them to check it out, verify, validate it with real humans.
Which is important, I guess.
which can be done, it's important. We always recommend that. But the whole concept of filtering it down and saving that time is significant.
Oh, that's significant. That's huge.
So they're using it for that kind of an audience. They're using it for the same thing. If you want to go and talk to a VP of marketing or VP of sales in a company, not easy to get all of them. So that other solution, it is for that particular audience. So that's the use case that we have in the B2B scenario.
Since you recommend this in terms of the verification aspect, Ajit,
Right.
I have a question, which is that has it ever backfired? For example, the company has gone ahead, trusted the survey, which I'm pretty sure has been something which you have put everything into. It's been a laborious process, but you tell them that, all right, let's go ahead and figure it out. They have a decision to take, they've taken the call, you've given them the guardrails that you need to be a little circumspect about certain things, re-verify, etc. Let's say they haven't done that. Has it ever happened?
Not to us right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Because
You get my point, right?
absolutely.
It's a very logical
there
thought.
There are cases like that out there. So we have not faced that primarily because we tell our clients very clearly, do not only use this, right? Use this in the way we are recommending. So we are not like a
use your own.
Yeah, not just that. We are not a platform provider who will just take the solution and just give it. Now you guys figure it out. We work with them very closely. We develop the solution.
So
you
that's
can
what
use
I
it.
wanted to
You can use it, but let us work through how to validate it, right? So we have not faced that situation, but what you're highlighting, jumping into just using that without using any human in the loop or any human validation, purely using a model can be tricky.
Sure.
Can be tricky.
Sure. Fair enough, which actually brings me to this aspect. The approach, we've been able to kind of get a fairly decent sense in terms of your approach. It is fairly robust. because
Right.
it's the hybrid version, or for that matter, the synthetic audience version. But walk us through this. My point would be this. Uh, let's say at a high level, how C5i builds a synthetic audience. I would want for us to understand that, which you've kind of
Right.
mentioned, but what data sources feed it into the process, and what kind of models or controls ensure that the output remains realistic and representative?
Absolutely.
Maybe if you could deep dive into that.
So absolutely. Again, for building, for showing the actual model how it works, I'll need a whiteboard and all of that. So let's not go there. But keeping it at a conceptual level, right? We start with the existing large language models. So we are right now at this point of time, while we are working on building custom models ourselves. Right now, we are going to use, let us say, GPT-4o, or any of those platforms out there, right? Enterprise level existing large language models.
Fair.
The reason for doing that is that, as I mentioned earlier, they are trained on trillions and trillions of consumer conversations.
Agreed.
It's already existing, right? So we start there, right? Now we take that as a foundation of our solution or our model, and on top of that, we do 2 or 3 additional things. First one is that we use clients' past data. Right, as I indicated earlier, many of the clients will have past data, right? So we bring that data stream into our model to condition and tune the model further, right? And that adds context, that adds domain specificity, that adds study specificity, and in many cases, even geographic specificity, right? All of that comes in from that client data, right? Apart from that, what we have done, which is kind of unique to our approach, is that we have got a live social media data feeding into our model.
Interesting.
So we use an enterprise-grade social media listening engine and our own crawlers, right? Which, again, it is contextualized for the client, for the product, for the category, for the country.
Has to be,
right? And once that feed is in, right? So we have that feed coming in, we have clients' past data coming in, on top of the existing large language models, right? That's how we develop the model. So it is not just depending on what the LLM will tell you. It is contextualized and conditioned by client's data, and with the real-time targeted data feed from outside. The combination of these is what kind of helps us to create our model. Right? So that's our approach at this point of time.
Because, I mean, you need to probably have that approach, Ajit, and did that approach also come from the fact that since there is a heavy reliance on, let's say, the models that you're talking about, let's say a GPT, etc., they hallucinate.
They do, and what happens with this is that it's very easy for anyone today, anyone listening, they can go to any engine, ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever, and start putting a market research kind of a question, right? Imagine that you are a 25-year-old living in Bangalore. Please look at this and answer this question on a 5-point scale. You'll get a very good answer, right? And
how true is it though?
That's the whole point.
Correct.
It is, and then you try it again and try it again and try it again. You will see variations in the answer because LLMs are just predicting the next token, right? It's going to give you somewhat of a realistic answer, but there are no controls around.
Of it, or in the ecosystem
it will give you that answer.
Somewhere.
It will give you the answer, but it is not be to your point earlier. You said about repeatability, consistency. That won't be there. Right, if you purely depend on it. Now, you may get that for something as common as preference for, let us say, a cricketer, right?
Who's, by the way, your favorite cricketer?
It used to be Sunil Gavaskar. I'm old, so.
Sunil Gavaskar,
yeah. I said that kind of tells me how.
Sachin bhi aaya tha.
That's okay.
Virat.
We're still stuck there.
Fair.
But
again, of course, he's vintage.
Yeah. Yes. So, going back to your point about reliability, right? So let's take, you want to understand who are the favorite cricketer of youngsters in Bangalore.
Fair.
Right? And you are simulating that with synthetic data. That kind of a question, the synthetic data will give you a pretty good response. Because there's a certain kind of buzz around people,
true.
Right? So with Virat Kohli is going to come up number 1. With human surveys versus synthetic data, you will get it. Because that is such a highly discussed topic.
True.
And there is fair amount of, consistency in the responses, right? Favorite actor, things like that.
Yeah, which are the popular
opinion, right?
Correct.
So your synthetic data will reflect that. But that's not what research is about. We are going way more complex, right? You want to understand whether a concept will work, what the customer journey is going to be, what the brand perceptions are. Those things will not be consistent if you purely depend on the LLMs. That is where this modeling comes into play.
And you've been able to, let's say, over a period of time, since you mentioned, I mean, I'll just hark back to the fact that you said that there is still no template to it. But what do you feel that over a period of time, with the kind of refinement and with the kind of numbers and surveys that have been already taken, have already been done, do you feel that there is a certain sense of an accuracy or an efficiency which has come into your system over a period of time?
Yeah, so templates, I've said templates are not there because it is not easy at this point of time
Sure.
to make a common product which will do everything for you.
I agree.
Like there is this magic kind of AI market research synthetic data solution which can do studies on automobiles one day, computers the next
Pharma
day,
the fourth
next
day.
day, right? That is not there, right?
Okay.
And there are different type of studies. There are concept studies, there are actors, there are brand studies, customer experience studies. That's an additional nuance. Countries, it's an additional nuance, right?
Sure,
So all of those complexities are there. So there is no one magic solution out there,
Fair.
right? So that's why I said there's no common template per se like that. But to your point about accuracy, right? That is where we are hitting high levels of success today when we take the approach that we are talking about.
That's what I was trying to
Once you
understand.
take an enterprise LLM model,
Yes.
custom condition, the way we are doing
Yes.
it, right? And make it very specific for that particular client and that domain. Today, for consumer audiences, we are hitting 90%.
That's fabulous.
So when I say 90%, you do the synthetic data generation, you take and stress test it by doing parallelly human surveys. 300 from synthetic, 300 from human surveys,
Fair.
done parallelly, compare it with each other. Today we are hitting for our clients 90%
That's
for
awesome,
consumer,
Ajit.
right? For consumer.
What was it at?
So when we started this journey, that was around 18 months back, we started at around 70% for the trained
Brilliant.
model, right?
Brilliant.
And then we have been able to nudge it up to this 90% level at this point of time. With the B2B audiences for niche areas, we are still kind of hovering in that 80 to 85 range, again on the trained models.
Privacy.
Yeah.
Have to definitely have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
The realism aspect versus privacy, Ajit. If you could just maybe talk us through that, because this is a simulated audience at the
Right.
end of the day. It's a synthetic audience. So you are heavily relying. Now the point is that these are not real people, so that privacy aspect doesn't come into the picture. So how do you kind of
So privacy in the realm of synthetic data for insights, right? It's usually it's a way to address the privacy challenge like we were discussing earlier.
agree?
Yeah. So privacy becomes a problem in market research when you are not able to talk to certain kind of people.
True.
Right. And synthetic data for insights or synthetic data for market research is a way to address that. So we are completely kind of circumventing that problem by simulating that audience without actually talking to the real people, where the privacy question does come in, right? So this is a way of circumventing that problem.
Sure.
Now, to your question, does privacy become a challenge in developing this kind of a solution?
Yes.
Not really,
Okay.
right? There may be a scenario where a client has some data which has got, identifiable information, and they want us to use that to train the model. In that case, we strip it off. The PII information, we strip it off and then train the model. So we are absolutely okay on the privacy angle in terms of developing the solution. As I said, in a way, it's a way of addressing the privacy challenge rather than it being a challenge for us for synthetic data.
Ajit, I mean, this one thing definitely comes to mind. So how, for example, if I'm a company and you were to come and address this aspect to me, in a way, synthetic audiences are a replacement for your traditional audience surveys, etc., and things like that. So we are talking in terms of a hybrid method or whatever it is. I would like for you to tell us that how does C5i and how does Ajit recommend clients orchestrate this mix that is been formulated by you?
That's a great question. So the way we look at it, first of all, we never ever use the word replacement. Right, it's a tricky place to be in.
Yes.
Right, so we never say replace. We never use the word replace. So it's like a red line cut in any discussion, right? We use the word augment, like to your point earlier. We use the words like supplement, right? So those are the value add kind of terminologies we bring in. Now going back to your question, how do we talk to clients about this concept?
Yes.
Right? What we tell them is that we never try to tell them that, we have a great synthetic data solution, please, let's take it. Let's talk to us about that. We start from asking them, what are the problems you're facing when it comes to your insights and analytics journey? what are the problems that you're facing, right? Then they start telling us, you know what, speed is a problem.
Sure.
Then they start telling us data quality is a problem sometimes. Sometimes they tell us that reaching an audience is a problem, right? Then we latch on to that as a hook. Then we tell them that, you know
which
what,
problem
yeah,
is the
yes,
biggest pain area.
Yeah, these are your problems, you know what? Here is a solution that we have developed, validated, tested, and deployed with clients.
Nice.
Which you can potentially use to address that, right? So that is the narrative that goes, and that works, right? Because then the clients understand that we are not trying to force anything to them. It is from their side, there is a pain, and this particular solution that we are bringing to the table can address that problem. Then depending on the client, your second part of your question about do we talk about supplementing, augmenting, that depends, right? For example, some clients in certain kind of situations, we can have a 100% synthetic data solution, like concept tests, for example.
Give me a use case.
So for example, there is another client of ours, which is in the global cosmetics business, a top 5 global brand, right?
Again, you guys get a C5i t-shirt if you guess the name.
Yes. So for this particular client, their use case was very interesting, and they had great leaders internally in that company who could take that leap of faith to think about synthetic data as a potential way of addressing that, right? So they came to us with this challenge that we have a lot of concepts that our internal teams are coming up with. A new face serum with this particular component, or new kind of makeup with this kind of new ingredients that is coming in for this particular use case, etc. A lot of ideas come internally.
You look like Marlon Brando if you use it.
Yeah, I wish. So the thing is, they bring up these, let's say there are 50 concepts every month, right? That is coming up from the internal R&D and marketing teams, right? You cannot test all 50 with human respondents. Imagine the cost they will have to entail, right? Huge amount of cost,
and
the time, right? And if you take 3 months to test something, the competitor would have launched something else, right? Your idea, right?
Agreed.
So 50 concepts, 60 concepts, 25 concepts, whatever the number, right? A lot of concepts to be tested. Practically impossible to test it with human surveys. So what most companies do, not just this company, almost every other company out there, what happens in the R&D scenario is that they have some past understanding. They have people who are experts, right? And they will use their own industry knowledge and understanding, which is always very robust, to shortlist. So they will sit in a room, look at the 50 and say, okay, I'm going to test these 5 because we believe those 5 are the best.
Logical.
Now that is based on their understanding. But oftentimes, our industry has examples like that of companies missing out on great ideas because somebody thought it won't work, right? So idea is that, okay, can this be more scientific? So as I said, this particular client was, had the kind of thought leadership, to kind of say, let us do this. Let's try a different approach rather than using our gut feel. So there we were able to go and tell them that we will give a solution to them, right, that will use synthetic data to do the concept testing.
It's ironical that you say you'll use synthetic data for a cosmetic company.
Yeah, it's very funny, right? So we start using the word virtual audiences because some clients do not like the word synthetic. Synthetic kind
now
of has a connotation.
On synthetic and cosmetics.
So yeah, it's very funny kind of terminologies at play here. But what we did there again is that we took some of their past data. And this is a segment that is well discussed by the target customer. It's a very involved topic, right? So we could build a model for them which could replicate or simulate human responses. So then what they do is that then we have developed a solution, we have given it to them. It's not that we are running it. So when their teams have got these new concepts, they can run it to our system, give them 5 concepts on a new skin product, run it through the system, it will tell which one will work. They shortlist that. They do more like that. And the final few, of course, they will do a very rigorous, thorough human survey and results, right?
Enough.
So now this helps them to actually address that big problem. But you're not missing out on a good idea.
Quite amazing, Ajit. Yeah. That's truly quite amazing.
So that has been a success.
Tell me this, I mean, as a feedback or as an understanding, since you had mentioned that, a lot of them would have felt that the gut feeling and they had the forward-looking understanding of saying, all right, let's use science, let's make sure that we are just not going with our gut. But once the study was done, did you think that they could have maybe harked back and maybe it was that interesting, the study, that they were very close to their gut feeling? Did that happen?
That's kind of internal. Yeah, that's kind of internal. From what we could understand is that this has been useful, right? There's always going to be a scenario that an expert who has worked in that for 30 years will be able to make a good judgment call.
Fair.
But then this at scale, right? To your point
Oh,
earlier
yes.
about scale and speed and repeatability,
Yes.
this solution is now repeatable. You develop it for one
I
product
agree.
category, you can take it to another product category. And especially the interesting scenario is that what if they're now trying to enter into something new, where the internal expertise is limited, right? Now this model really helps them. Let's say they're not operating in X category. Now
Sure.
they want to enter that category, right? A new country, etc. Then the same models can be then taken, conditioned and tuned and executed. So that gives you significantly higher scalability without depending on human expertise, which may not be there across every category, every country, every geography that you're operating on. So scalability is a big deal.
Big deal. The risk challenges aspect,
Right.
Ajit, and of course then there is that huge elephant in the room, which is the ethical understanding of things.
Right.
How would you like to maybe, address those factors?
So the biggest risk in an approach like this is what we were talking right in the beginning, which is believing that here is going to be a magic solution. I can just rely on the LLMs.
वो तो होगा नहीं.
We don't have to kind of tune it. We don't have to condition it.
Fair.
The science is so advanced that I'll just make a nice little wrapper around an LLM and it'll magically give you everything.
Sure.
That is the biggest risk out there. Because what happens is that for somebody who's not a researcher or an expert, the results can be very believable, extremely believable, right? But it won't stand scrutiny. There won't be any consistency. So that is the biggest risk right now with this kind of an approach of using virtual audiences, synthetic data for insights, is jumping into an all-can-you kind of a solution, right? That's number one. The second challenge, of course, is the one of convincing the larger internal audiences, right? Because it is not enough to convince one audience internally. For example, you may be interfacing with an inside department who are very convinced about this particular solution. They adopt it with you in that journey, right? And we have done a great solution. You take it to internal stakeholders, and if they haven't got the buy-in from the internal stakeholders, there could be a potential backlash that the client can face, our team can face. They'll say that, okay, we don't trust this. So we often recommend our clients that, please ensure that internally you are, aligned before you take this journey, because there is going to be skepticism from your largest stakeholders.
Because I mean, that's the reason I asked.
Yes,
because the
right.
moment you talk about augmented data, or for that matter, supplementary or data, or cosmetic, synthetic data, there is that sense of
yes, there will
skepticism.
be. Yeah, so that is the number one, actual issue. Now, the other aspect, which is the ethical aspect of doing this, here again, we are not impinging on anybody's privacy because you're using LLMs. So there's no privacy-related kind of ethical challenges at all here. The issue is about transparency, right?
Correct.
Transparency. So we are as an agency, right? We as a company, consulting company, a client comes to us to do some research, right? And we just slip in some synthetic data to save money.
True.
Right?
True.
That is highly, highly unethical, right? So that is the part that the industry needs to be mindful about, which is a very critical factor. That if you're going to use
some
this,
millions and billions of dollars riding.
We are talking about a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to blend in synthetic data with your real human data, be transparent and tell the client exactly what you're doing, right? That is the ethical landmine that's out there, which is going to be
and that's a big
issue.
one.
It's a big one. It's going to come into the play more and more and more. Our industry has gone through some of these challenges in the past where methodologies changed and people started doing a different kind of sampling method and not being transparent about it, right? So that is the part that has to be taken care of.
Do you feel that AI or any of that might be able to? No, I'm just thinking aloud in my head, no?
It's a transparency question. It's very simple, right?
Correct.
The good old days.
If I decided that I have to just slide in something, I mean, who can stop me?
Yeah, but then you may get caught out eventually, right?
That's true.
It can. And
but lesser so with synthetic audiences.
Yeah, but then it is, you can get away with it, right? But your point about ethical, right? That's not ethical. See, ultimately, what are we trying to do here? We are trying to get collective
exactly
value,
what I'm
right?
trying to get at.
So our story to our clients is that, look, we are not here to kind of now say that, let us save some money by doing this. It is one aspect of it. right?
I hope you understand where I'm coming from, right, Ajit?
Absolutely.
Because in a traditional survey, still kind of tougher or whatever for one to kind of paste something, slide something in. But here, it's a simulated audience.
It's even more easier to slip it in.
Exactly my
Right.
point.
So that's what I'm saying.
So what kind of a guardrail would you recommend for the industry?
It's transparency. It's as simple as that.
That's it.
Right. Transparency. That because in this particular industry, like even if you take the traditional methods, there's no way a client can be sure that the person who's giving them the results has actually talked to those people.
True.
There is no way of back validation in this industry today, right? So everything is based on trust, right? And where it gets caught out usually is in repeatability, right? You know, you do it again. If it doesn't come, then you okay. How did you do this last time?
Fair.
Where did you get the data from? Those questions come in.
Sure.
Same parallel can happen with synthetic data. If it is not done properly, you may get caught out. So the narrative that we have with our clients is that don't look at this purely as a cost-saving methodology. Collectively, we can do more. Earlier, if you were doing X number of studies with Y % kind of budget, now for the same Y budget, you can do 5x number of outputs, which gives more value to you. So which means that the research industry or the consulting industry doesn't have to lose out their revenue stream because of this. They can do more for their end clients and collectively win. So it's not a question of, okay, we got this new technology now in AI. Now everything is going to come down from a price point perspective, so it's going to affect the industry. Rather than that, there's a lot of research that companies need to do, right? And this enables them to do more with the same amount of investment and get more value.
So do you believe that C5i will never recommend purely a human-based survey now that you have a lot of cost that you're saving vis-a-vis the machine learning and
we are not
AI
there
aspect?
yet. We are not there yet.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
There are many studies, where we have to 100% do.
You get my point, right?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times the industry tends to think, "Achha, wait, man, this is a new module, this is a new tech that I have. It's saving me a lot of money. So why should I go ahead and tell the customer in all transparency that, sir, please let's not try traditional.
We're not there
survey.
yet.
It's not
So
worth
right
it.
now it's a blending story,
Yeah.
right? It's a use case story. So a client may use this for certain areas, right? They may do 15 different type of studies across 15 countries. Use this for one category, one country, show your own internal teams it works, then you can scale it up. So we are not yet at a place where we or anyone in our industry today is going and telling the client that stop doing that.
Fair point.
There are some people doing that, but they are pure play generative AI, synthetic data research companies who has only that as a business model. So I'm not commenting on that, but that's a typical approach that they take because that's the only thing they do.
But tell me this now, Ajit. I mean, looking forward in terms of the future, how do you see synthetic audience methodologies evolving? That's one. And what features or enhancements do you feel hybrid excite you the most?
Absolutely. That needs deeper answer. So let's go to the first question, right? Where is it evolving, right? What is happening is that, and this evolution that is going to happen is kind of dependent on how much these models are improving day in, day out, right? So one of the greatest advantages here for this particular initiative is that we are riding on one of the biggest investments in technology we've ever seen, right? The large language model, generative AI in general is getting so much of investment, which means that the models are improving pretty much every day, right? Which means that our ability to build a solution on top of that is also evolving much better.
Agreed.
So which means the accuracy, the applicability, etc. will continue to evolve as the models evolve, right? Now going into a little more specificity there, what is going to happen is that now typically when you think about audiences, generation, we are thinking about from the perspective that, okay, we are going to simulate a human response. But that's only one part of the whole value chain of insights, right? You need to kind of develop an instrument to collect the data, right? Then comes this collection of data, which we have been discussing for the last half an hour, right? Then there is post that, there is other work streams that you need to do. You need to analyze the data. You need to report it out, etc. Right? There is an entire value chain on the left side and the right side of the data generation process.
Sure.
So one of the biggest evolutions that is going to happen and already happening in some ways is that we can look at an AI enablement kind of automation throughout this value chain, right? Data generation becomes only one part of it, right? You can get that automation throughout the value chain all the way from generating the instruments to collecting the data which we discussed, analyzing and reporting it in a very intuitive manner, use case specific. So that is an evolution that we are all very excited about, right?
Okay.
Powered by these kind of tools, right? So that is a big thing that's going to happen, right? The going even further, right? What is again even more exciting for us is that going beyond just the survey part of it, right? So think about a use case like concept testing, which we discussed from the perspective of that cosmetic client, right? What if we can also use the power of generative AI and AI to create the concept?
Nice.
We are actually working on that for a different client,
Very nice.
right? So we can use the power of their own past concept studies and the LLMs out there to even simulate and create concepts,
Fair
right?
enough.
And that's an extremely powerful use case for generative AI, right? And AI. So you can create a concept, then what we discussed, test the concept. What if I want to find out the price sensitivity? If I'm going to price it at this particular price point,
which is a very important one.
Yes. With the next stage of that, we can actually do that also, right? So you think about this being going left to right from a value chain perspective. So that is a big, kind of exciting.
So those are the evolutions.
Yes, that's the evolution we are going. Yeah. You're not just going to do this as a survey or research or whatever. You're going left and right of that value chain to go deeper. That is really exciting.
All right. So before I would like to sum it all up, Ajit, I would have to ask you very quickly to bring out your expertise, because you followed Sunil Gavaskar, and Sunil Gavaskar has faced deliveries at more than 155 kilometers an hour. This is the rapid fire section. So before we get into the C5i vision,
okay,
and the message that you probably have, where do you see C5i in the future, and probably the industry as well? Here are your rapid fires.
Sure.
So what's one widespread myth about market research or consumer insights you wish people would drop right now?
The biggest myth that I would like people to drop is that you can avoid doing this, avoid doing market research and rely on AI for everything.
Nice, well done, well put. In your view, is it tougher to build trust around AI generated insights, or to convince stakeholders that traditional methods still have merit?
It's the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, right now, right.
Which is a good thing?
Yeah.
Which is a great sense of evolution which is
Yes,
taking place. Yeah. Wow. All right. So what keeps you most excited or uneasy about where market intelligence is headed in the next 5 years? Excited or uneasy?
I'm excited by the application of AI in insights. It is the biggest change we have seen in this particular industry in the last many, many decades. So that's what is most exciting, always.
Uneasy, slipping in the data.
Uneasiness is always around those kind of practices. And other part that I'm uneasy about always is the continuing kind of scaling down of investments into research that companies should be putting in.
Valid point.
Right. There is this whole tendency today to kind of skip it, or use some of these shortcut methods, and our industry is replete with examples of not doing that correctly, right? You heard what happened to Jaguar, right? I'm not saying it's only that, but part of it, you did not talk to your right customers enough before you took a leap of faith to do those changes, right?
True, especially the leap if you were a Jaguar.
Yeah, that was disastrous.
Of course, finally, I have to say this and ask you this. What do you see in terms of the future, Ajit? By the way, you have scored 10 out of 10 on your rapid fire.
I did.
Wonderfully done. And you knocked it out of the park. Unfortunately, Sunil never played it in the air. So, your final take in terms of moving forward, where do you see the industry? What's your vision for C5i? And I would love for you to end on maybe a message that you'd like to give everyone.
See, for us, from a C5i perspective, right, we play in the full ecosystem of insights and analytics powered by AI, right? So for us, this particular solution fits in beautifully with our larger story, right? So the vision that we have is that make this an integral part of our offering, help the industry to adopt it in a meaningful, effective manner, and be known as a leader in this particular space, leveraging generative AI for insights, especially for synthetic data. So that's what we are about. It's not just about that solution in isolation, For us, it's a part of our largest value prop that we
Nice.
have for our clients. So that is our vision, right? What is the second part of your question?
Where do you see what kind of a message would you like to give to the industry at large, your industry at
Yeah.
large, to move forward in terms of the future? How do
Yeah.
you what are the things that you'd like
Yeah.
to probably tell them?
So there are two parts to that, right? One of the things is kind of that last part of the question, the rapid fire question that you asked, right? So one is clearly that insights and research is extremely critical, right? Technology will be there. Technology has always been there. Now technology is advancing at a rapid pace. Doesn't mean that the rigor and the time and effort you put into it can come down. The tendency
Correct.
of taking shortcuts, easy ways out, using some magical tools out there, rather than applying yourself into it, that has to stop, right?
Fair.
That tendency has to stop. So that is one part of it, right? That's one part of the outlook or the message that I have. The second part is that embrace these new technologies, right? There is no point in saying and remaining skeptical. There is huge value by applying AI and generative AI into the insights value chain. There's no doubt about it. If you don't adopt it now, others, your clients, your competitors will adopt it and they'll move faster and ahead of you. It has to be adopted. There are ways and means of adopting it scientifically, ethically, responsibly, transparently. But as long as you do that, you gain value from it. So those are two parts of what I would like to say.
Wonderfully put, Ajit. I just have to say this, that it's been a true pleasure speaking with you as far as the entire journey is concerned. What are my takeaways I would like to share is the fact that it's truly been, I feel, a very encouraging time as far as the industry is
Yes,
concerned.
it is. It has been.
I'm sure things are only going to improve leaps and bounds. Things are going to get far more efficient, as you're saying, that there is a huge investment in AI. And with that, your methodologies are also going to keep evolving.
Absolutely.
And at a very brisk pace. But I think what I finally had as a takeaway was that there is never going to be a removal of the human in the loop. One needs to remain transparent, honest, and finally, at the core of it all, one needs to make sure that this technology is only assisting the larger aspect for the end customer and shortening that pain
Absolutely.
periods.
Absolutely. Very well put. Thank you so much.
It's been definitely a true pleasure, and wishing you and C5i all the best moving forward, onwards and upwards.
Thank you so much.
Constantly making sure that you're leaping forward.
Thank you so much.